I did manage to get about 10 to 12 feet of cordage. In about an hour's time, or I'm sorry, in about 2 hours time. And this is what I ended up with, which is 5 feet of doubled over cordage. I twisted it like I showed you to make the initial cordage. And then I took the start end, which has a loop in it. You can see the loop where I started my original cordage. And I took my knife and I slid it in there. And then I pulled it out like this. And I just twisted. Twist, twist, twist till you get it as tight as you possibly can. And I wet it down first with water. I got it nice and wet with water. And then I twisted my already made cordage, which was about 10 to 12 feet. I had to stand, 12 feet away from this knife with the cord nice and straight like this, and twisted it until I saw the water start wringing out of it, just like you're wringing the water out of a towel or a washcloth, and got it just as tight as I possibly could. And then I reached into the center and I folded it over, and it will spin around itself. You got to kind of guide it, and you can double your cordage over. You can double it over, and you can quadruple it over. I mean, this is quadrupled over, and it's probably close to a 1/2 inch thick, and that would be strong enough for anything I could possibly think of. I mean, you could probably climb with that rope. I wouldn't though, but it's pretty strong. But I don't want it that thick. I just want it doubled over one time, because I'm going to use this as a bowstring for the bow drill fire, and I need about 5 or 6 foot for my bow to make a good string. And once you double it over and it twists upon itself, just pull it nice and tight and stretch it out as much as you can, and then just take it and hang it out over well, I'm just going to hang this over the pine trees here and let the sun hit it, and it should be dry by morning. And because it's wet, once it dries, that's going to set that twist right into it. The twist is already set into it, but by making it wet and letting it dry out, it just seems to set that twist in a little better and kind of tighten up, and just makes it that much stronger. But that'll make a good bowstring, and that took me 2 hours start to finish using the leg roll method of cordage making with dog bane. By the way, to make 10 to 12 feet of 1/8 inch diameter cordage, it took about 6 stalks of dog bane that are at the base not quite as big as my pinky, and probably about 4 feet long. This is bigger dog bane than what I'm used to. So 6 pieces of 4 foot long dog bane. That's about 24 foot of dog bane, and I ended up with about 12 foot of cordage. So it pretty much works out to half. If you want 10 foot of cordage that's an 1/8 inch thick, then you're gonna need 20 foot of dog bane. And you know, that's going to vary depending on the thickness and the length of the dog bane, but it's just a good average number. So something to think about. There's no need to go out and gather 100 stalks of dog bane if all you want to do is make 10 feet of dog bane cordage. You could probably make 10 feet of dog bane cordage by gathering 5 or 6 average size pieces of dog bane. I have about 20 pieces of dog bane here, and the average length of them is 3 feet, so that's 60 foot of dog bane. I should easily be able to make 30 foot of dog bane cordage with that, and I could probably crank it out in about 3 or 4 hours now that I've got the hang of it. A couple other things I noticed is I showed you earlier that this was the last year's dog bane because it has this white chaff on it, and this more reddish colored dog bane is this year's. This new stuff has only been hit by 1 or 2 frosts, and it is completely dry, but it's a little tough getting that chaff off of there. But it splits nice and easy. This older stuff from last year, it's real easy to knock that chaff off, but when you try to split it to separate the fibers, a lot of times it just kind of crumbles up and it doesn't split evenly, and it makes doing the fiber separation like I showed you a little more difficult. It wants to crumble. The cordage doesn't want to stay together for you. It's getting kind of old, so that's the difference. I think I had the best luck with the dog bane that had sat through the entire winter, and I harvested it after the first thaw this late winter here. After the winter, after all the snow had melted, I went out and I gathered it, and the chaff seemed to remove fairly easy, but it was still strong enough that I could separate the fibers easily, and the fibers were still strong. So I think 1 frost or 2 frosts is probably not quite enough to loosen up that chaff for you. And if you let it set all the way through the winter and all the way through the following summer, then it's just going to be a little too brittle and a little too old to be functional. So you just want to find a happy medium there and go with that. But I think that's something I'll learn with experience. I was told that if you harvest it after the first frost, that's the best time to gather it, and that doesn't really seem to be the case in my situation, because the stuff I harvested after the winter was over with seemed to work the best. But like I said, it all just comes with experience, and I think if you get out there and you harvest it at different times of the year in your area, you'll learn what works best for you. I guess that's about it. Talk to you later.